So today, in order to get to where I want to with this message, I'm going to have to pull back the curtain a small bit and give you a little glimpse of some of the less appealing parts of the real estate industry. And when I say you, I mean you, the person watching this right now in the vast YouTube universe. And if you're the only person that watches this and you get some value from it, then well, that's all that matters to me. Welcome to Moving Napa Valley. Let's get to it. So if you're watching this video, it's safe to presume that you have some interest or involvement in real estate. In general, a large majority of our viewers are here either looking for information on neighborhoods, tips and advice on new construction communities, or tours of new homes here in Napa and Solano counties. So they tend to be more on the buyer side, looking to potentially purchase. Well, future buyers, if you haven't heard, on August 17, 2024, barring any unexpected legal delays, the real estate industry is undergoing a major shift due to a number of recent settlements that will definitely affect the current business model of real estate agents nationwide. Of course, there's always exceptions. For example, the state of Washington got ahead of this ruling and changed its business model several years back. So there are areas where this won't be such a seismic shift. I won't go down the rabbit hole of detailing all the nuances of the final judgment. At this point, it's not for certain how all the details are going to be worked out. For the most part, the shift affects two components that as a buyer you should be clear on: how potential buyers can view a property for sale, and how, when, and where the buyer's agent compensation can be disclosed. So to answer these just as broadly without going down those rabbit holes, one, a buyer's agent cannot show a home to a potential buyer without having a signed agreement of representation from that potential buyer. This agreement can be specific to a single property or be broad, covering multiple listed properties, a designated area such as a city or county, or a specified length of time. The signed agreement must disclose the compensation to the buyer's agent, whether it's a flat fee, a commission, or other payment structure. No longer will listing agents be allowed to post any pre-designated offered commission to the buyer's agent in the MLS. Now, from my perspective, I have no problem with this change. First, as an agent that has represented more buyers than sellers over my career, I actually welcome this mandate to be under some form of contract. I feel that many people have come under the false impression that agents are no more than just door openers and provide little more value. More on that later. And second, as a working professional, I've always gotten paid for my services. I don't imagine anyone previously expected to have representation in a real estate transaction and not have that representative get paid. But under the current model, it was the most common practice that the buyer's agent commission was negotiated between the two brokers and reflected the buyer's agent role in successfully getting a home under contract and purchased. Now, what's being said throughout our industry will potentially affect you as a buyer, so that's why I turned the camera on today to speak directly to you. So in real estate circles, there has always been a value placed on being a listing agent, i.e. the agent representing the seller side, and for good reason. A top-notch seller's agent does a lot more than a good seller's agent, and a good seller's agent does a lot more than an average agent. Yet, a majority of the time, they end up with the same ultimate result: the seller's home gets sold. Yes, there are tremendous benefits if you're a seller in regards to hiring a top-notch agent over an average agent. The potential to increase your net gain or receive more favorable terms, the ability to come under contract sooner, the list goes on. Yet the difference in compensation may only be marginal percentage-wise. For example, an average agent may charge 5% and a great agent may charge 6%. Listing and selling agents have more control over their potential to be compensated regardless of their overall quality of service. So, with the upcoming shift in the industry, what do you think is happening? That's right, more and more agents, even entire brokerages, are shifting their focus on securing listings, looking for what they consider to be a more secured form of compensation. I get it. People hate uncertainty, It makes us anxious, insecure, scared, defensive even. Agents are worried that with the upcoming changes, sellers will look to capitalize on gaining more net by refusing to initially offering to pay any portion of the buyer's agent compensation. Remember, under today's model, a listing agent may charge 5% with the understanding that they would offer 2% to a buyer's agent that successfully brought a buyer to the table. So the concern is that the seller may only be inclined to sign on with the listing agent for, say, 3%, and in turn offers the buyer side nothing toward compensation. And honestly, I just don't get the mindset. Good, competent, even great buyer's agent would rather secure their own bag and shift their whole business model over to being a lister seller's agent instead of putting their experience and skills toward providing services to buyers that need this level of value more than ever. I honestly have faith that the majority of home buyers will continue to see the value in quality representation and will work with agents that, the most part, will still negotiate with sellers to secure the best deal for the buyer and work toward getting their compensation covered as well. True story. When I went to buy my first house over 20 years ago, of course, I had no idea how the process worked. Plus, the world was different. Homes were listed for sale in the paper. Craigslist was the most consumer friendly avenue to see local listings online, unless you went to individual brokerages' websites. It was crazy times. So I worked with a young realtor, and this man was a blessing. He was always available to show homes. If I saw something I was interested in and shot him the info, he'd have a viewing set up ASAP. Anyway, the agent was a true blessing. We vibed. I learned the true value of an agent representing my best interest and successfully navigating all the complexities. An analogy that comes to mind is when considering using a lawyer. So, there are some legal issues that I feel just comfortable handling myself. I can gather the necessary documents, go to the courthouse, pay any fees, and file accordingly. There are other legal issues that I feel way more comfortable paying a third party company for, say, a la carte services. Then there are other legal issues that I feel are definitely best handled by a legal professional, someone whose career is solely focused on being a fiduciary for their clients. And for me, I'm looking to get the best qualified representation I can afford. So today, my advice to you is that know that after August 17th, you will be asked to sign an agreement prior to even viewing a property. So don't be discouraged. I'll go over a few of those agreements in a moment to help you feel more comfortable. And my biggest advice is that if you choose to work with a buyer's agent at any point, it's in your best interest to read and understand what you're agreeing to and what level of services you can expect from your representative. No matter what fee structure you agree on, make sure you're getting the best services and expected services. Now, all over the country, buyer agent agreements are not consistently the same. It's important that you understand the scope of services your potential representative will be providing for you. They may help factor in what you ultimately decide to do. I'm going to pull up here two new forms that have been recently revised here in California to address the recent settlements. The first form will be used in regards to showing specific properties, and the second form will be used in regards to more broader parameters. Now, of course, for any agent you're potentially going to work with, request that they go over the agreement in detail with you. At a minimum, you should be clear on 1, the specific parameters of what is going to be shown, 2, the time frame covered by this agreement, 3, how to terminate the agreement, and 4, the agreed upon fee. So these are the key points we'll look at today. Starting with the PSRA, Property Showing and Representation Agreement. This area here is for specific addresses that will be showed per this assignment. Note this would even cover virtual tours. For instance, I have out-of-area relocation clients that we offer personalized virtual tours to. Also note that this document has 3 pages, and it's in your best interest to read it thoroughly and have your representative answer any questions you may have. The 3 terms of this agreement that you should be clear on at a minimum are listed in this box. And as I mentioned, they're detailed further in the following pages. A, Length of the agreement, basically know what you're signing on for. What is the representation period you're getting attached to? Is it 1 day? Is it for multiple days, i.e. separate showings? Regardless, this form cannot exceed 30 days. Any time frame longer than 30 days require using the BRBCA, Buyer Representation and Broker Compensation Agreement, which we'll look at it next. You'll see the notice repeatedly. Real estate commissions are not fixed by law. Now, that doesn't mean an agent or broker has to negotiate their fee. The majority of real estate professionals have standard fees that are charges for specific services. But this is why it's important to know what exactly you're getting in regard to service, as it may vary amongst agents, and you can make sure you're most comfortable with your expectations from whomever you decide to hire. 1. Either percentage or final sale or flat fee. Note your agent can only receive up to the amount specified in this agreement. So even if through negotiation it's disclosed that the seller is willing to pay 3% to the buyer's agent, and say this agreement is for 2.5, the agent can only be compensated 2.5. In addition, if the seller is offering 2%, then the buyer is only responsible for compensating their agent the remaining 0.5%. Always know how any agreement you sign onto can be terminated. For this agreement, either party can cancel this working relationship upon written notice. But let's be clear. Say, for instance, the original agreement was for 30 days, and after 2 showings in the first week, you decided to terminate the agreement. Then you proceed to purchase one of the previously shown properties within the original agreement's 30-day window. You may be responsible for compensating the original agent in addition to any new agent you're working with as well. So make sure you read through your contracts carefully. Now let's move on to a form that you will definitely encounter more often moving forward, the BRBCA, Buyer Representation and Brokers Compensation Agreement. Understanding that this will vary in format depending on what state you're in, but it will be aligned in overall context, as they are all based on the same legal judgment. Once again, it's important to note that the terms of representation in sections A through G are explained in more detail over the entire 5 pages of this document and should be read thoroughly. Designated period or length that this agreement is for. Note this can be 1 day, 30 days, but cannot exceed 3 months. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't continue to work with your chosen realtor. Just prior to the 3 months, you need to sign a new agreement. 2. Type of representation. The default is non-exclusive, which basically means that during the term of this agreement, you are not solely held to working with this agent in attaining property. Note that in most cases, the exclusive box will be checked, as I'm not sure many agents would utilize this longer period agreement if there wasn't a commitment on both parties to work exclusively together for a given period of time. It would seem more appropriate to then utilize the property-specific or less than 30-day agreement. Sections B through D details the type of properties that you and your agent will be searching and where. For instance, particular cities and/or counties. Section E is where you will signify the agreed upon amount of compensation, whether it's a percentage of the final sales price or a flat fee. Section F is where you'll make note of how this agreement is to be canceled, if it's non-exclusive upon written notification, and if it's exclusive 30 days after receipt. One interesting addition to this form is in Section G. If the box is checked, buyer does not have sufficient funds to pay broker, this signifies that any offers submitted for purchase will include a request that the seller side include a credit that covers the buyer side representative's compensation. In some cases, the buyer could even request their agent to not show them any homes where the seller has indicated that no credits for buyer agent compensation will be offered. Aside from knowing these important terms, as a buyer, you should also understand the expectations of the representative you're considering hiring. Now, for each state, the legal requirements can vary significantly. And if the agent or broker you're working with offers more than what's listed in their state-provided buyer's broker agreement, It's important that you get this in writing and, if possible, add it as an addendum. Now, the contract language in California is quite specific and outlines responsibilities that are far more than what I've seen in other states. Let's take a look. 1. Locating and presenting properties. Presenting offers and negotiating on buyer's behalf. Once offers accepted, facilitating the buyer side of the escrow process. 2. Assist buyer with setting up any inspections and reports required through the transaction. This includes attending any surveys, meetings, etc. 3. Referring professionals in these areas. 4. Assisting buyer with gaining financing, including providing referrals as needed. Visually inspect property and provide report to buyer of observations. Collect all necessary disclosures and forward to buyer. Now, aside from these contractual obligations, and like I said, they do vary by state, you as the buyer should also gather more information on what your representative will deliver and their work processes. For instance, how do they handle showings? Will they attend broker tours and look for off-market properties? Do they work in new construction markets? And as I mentioned, whatever is discussed and agreed upon, have it memorialized in writing. As always, if you're interested or know anyone that is interested in the Napa Valley, Solano County, or Greater Bay Area, give me a call, text, email, or fill out the questionnaire in the About section below. I know a lot of agents are giving up on the buyer side of real estate, but not here at Moving Napa Valley. My goal is to help you find a home that you deserve. I look forward to hearing from you. Until then, hope to show you around.